Welcome to another episode of Savvypreneurship. Today, we have a special guest with us, Chris Theodorakakis. Oh my gosh, it's a mouthful. A seasoned business program lecturer at both Dawson College and Concordia University in Montreal. So let's jump right in. Chris, as a lecturer in business programs, you have firsthand experience teaching students about various aspects of business. Can you share some insights into the practicality of the business lessons taught at both higher education institutions?
Absolutely. From my experience, the business lessons taught in universities, colleges, CJIPs provide students with a sound and solid foundation of theoretical knowledge and practical skills that are what we think is essential for success in the business world. However, it's important to complement classroom learning and real life experiences using hands-on projects, case study analysis, and bridging the gap between theory and practice, which is a ongoing kind of challenge in the educational milieu.
And what are some key business lessons that you emphasize in your lectures? And how do you ensure that there are practical applications for students?
Yeah, well, we look for a few concepts. We value strategic thinking, so that by using various tools in the classroom, like we try to, at least we do try to incorporate case studies and simulations, which basically provide the students the opportunity to kind of use these concepts and to apply what the theory in a somewhat controlled yet dynamic environment. So that's one thing. We also try to focus on the importance of financial savviness. And that includes understanding financial statements, which is basically the typical statements like income statement, balance sheet, cash flows, budgeting, and forecasting are just kind of a few things that kind of tie in with this improving or trying to give them a sense of financial access. And we do this. You should do this. We can do this by, or what I do is we try to use project-based learning, where actually students are given a scenario, and they analyze real financial data and prepare reports and make decisions and based on their analysis that they've done. So that's kind of the second point. Also try to focus on management and leadership skills. And again, there's a difference between two. There's courses on that, but at the end of the day, we try to seeing that leadership and management skills are very very important in business. We try to bring that to the classroom. How I do it is by few forms. I mean, using bringing in guest speakers like yourself from different industry leaders. I mean, that brings, I think I love doing that, but I mean, it brings that whole different perspective what students connect with, and just gives them the real life kind of application right in front of them. Group projects is another big one. I mean, they could apply within a group environment, especially their, the leadership and management skills that, and to deal with those challenges that present themselves when they're actually doing this work. Also,
how many students do you usually have in the group?
Yeah, it depends on the class, because class size goes depending where I am, or I'm CJIP or university. But I mean, classes range from, say, a small one is 30 students to 100. You know what I mean? So then you do the math. So usually, but the magic number that we found really There's actually theory on this too, but I mean, with respect to working somehow productively in a team, it's about five. So four to five, six kind of max, even in big classes. Because after that, at some point, you know what I mean. There's different, you know, you're not as efficient. There's just too many people, right? So your input and to actually be productive in the group, it shows that it's just very difficult. So my kind of magic number, depending on the class, is about five to six. Six is kind of
Tactics.
max. Um,
But we know the problem with such large groups is that you always have one or two people doing all the work, and the
yeah,
others are basically just observers, right?
yeah, we call those. Of course, it's always going to be social loafers. What do we call them? Social loafers,
Social
where they
workers, I like
actually
that.
exactly what they do, right? They just,
Yeah,
they know. No, but I mean that's just psychology. They know that other members are going to actually produce more work or do more work, right? So they just take a kind of a laissez-faire approach, right?
right,
Which of course is not fair and that kind of stuff, and that of course that leads to conflicts within groups, which is always conflicts. But I mean, but that's part of life, right? I mean, that happens in real life. So I mean, and developing their conflict management skills is very, very important as well. So that's why I love kind of team projects,
right.
because it does present various challenges, and which is real. And then and then it just gives them an opportunity to kind of foster the skills. So I mean, that's why it touches a lot of things like leadership management and also conflict management, right? Because there's always going to be, because you need some level of conflict, right? And doing things, but I mean, you have to manage that. Yeah, and so, and also, let's say the last one. I mean, just is entrepreneurial kind of mindset. We try to um, allow the students, or at least I try to allow the students to kind of use their sense of creativity and innovation, which is very, very important, right? It ties into entrepreneurship, but I mean individually, right? I mean, everybody's got a different level, and sometimes you just, you got to tap into it, or at least trying to give an opportunity to the student to tap into that area. I think is very, very important.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, and how do you do that? Again, same thing in terms of competitions or simulations in class as well, right? And again, more group kind of project learning kind of projects, but even individual too, where actually based on a real kind of situation or simulation of a real problem. So that's very important. So that's kind of, that's the entrepreneurial, what we say, mindset, where we try to expose the student or the learner in an environment where they have to kind of be creative, forced to make decisions based on, you know, analytical analysis too, but also using their innovation. So those are some kind of things that I try to do in delivering lectures. But I mean, yeah, and of course it depends on the course.
And with the rapid pace of technological advancements and changes in the business landscape, how do you ensure that your curriculum remains relevant and up to date?
Yeah, that I could say, even yeah, from an administration point, because I do some admin work as well too, in terms of being part of various communities or committees within the educational institutions. But one thing we do is regular curriculum review and updates, or we have to, or it's basically trying to be informed about the latest industry trends, right? Being in the know, and of course with technology advancing so quickly, right? Especially machine, AI, which is a big one now, especially Chat GTP, right? Technology, that's kind of the elephant in the room right now. But I mean, it's amazing game changer. But the question is, how do you use it, right? How do you use it as a teacher, as a prof, or even as a student for learning? So that's kind of where we're at now. And of course, we do academic research, right? Where we actually, do research on these trends as well. And also we get feedback from students, right? I mean, typical, if you want the answers from your clients, students, right, you have to ask them. So we do that as well. And yeah, we also tap into our alumni group as well, where we ask, that's what basically graduates of the institution, like Concordia, say, or Dawson, and we asked them as well, right? In terms of just doing research, just trying to connect, right, and just trying to update. This is the whole process is evolving, updating the curriculum, right? And of course, there's also sometimes laws, right, that come in. For example, Bill 96 here in Quebec, right? So I mean, that came in, and that's
For those who don't know, it's the strict French language law. Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and then that's had a huge impact, especially in the for the English institutions here, right? So that forced us. That's another almost revision that we're doing now at these institutions, right? In terms of how do you implement this? Because at first the government gave us a you know a, an initiative, right, or a plan, not a plan, but actually a directive, and then they said, "All right, you guys will figure out." In other words, the institutions will have to figure how to implement it. So I mean, and that's what we're doing now. So that force also forces us to review and to kind of update the curriculum from that perspective. Uh,
What are some common expectations that students have when enrolling in these business programs, and how do you manage these expectations?
Yeah, well, first, yeah, I mean, from a lecture perspective, what I do is usually I ask them. I mean, my courses, I'll do, say, my first class, I'll do I'll actually ask them what their expectations are. That's a great question. I mean, because even for the course, not just the curriculum as well, right? I mean, there's expectations that they have for the program holistically, even for every course. So at least what I try to do is I kind of, try to get them to understand where they're coming from a personal level. I mean, that helps kind of engagement part, what I think is very, very important to kind of to try to engage with the learner, or else it becomes very, very difficult. So I personally ask them, right, and it's simple with technology now. I just you ask them, I make a short questionnaire, a few questions, and just to get to know them a little bit. But in terms of holistically, right, how do you manage their
Right.
expectations? But I mean, yeah, I mean, we have to bring it. Well, we provide them, right, with realistic information about career outcomes, career research in terms of average salaries, employment rates, typical career paths, because that's what they're actually looking for, right? So, end of the day, it's trying to give them a link, say a realistic picture of their career advancement or job placement. And we have different programs, right, depending, especially at the university level, right? We have a lot of we actually have a career planning department there, and at say Concordia, John Wilson School of Business, we have great internship programs, which I think is very, very important. These are sometimes paid, non-paid, but at the end of the day, it gives the students the opportunity to actually put their foot in a real workplace and
Well,
actually learn. Not necessarily apply what they learn, because at the end of the day, you're gonna learn. Every company is different, right? But I mean, you still apply, but I mean, you're just learning how things are done on a corporate level, or it could be NPO level, right? In terms of it doesn't have to be profit, but I mean in an organization, because every organization has their own way of doing things, right? So I think that's crucial, having those internships opportunities. I know when I was a student there, I mean, we were pushing that. It wasn't very widespread. Now it is, and that's great. That's a great venue or avenue for students to kind of tap into. And again,
what type of tasks do they perform during their internship as business program
like
students?
students, see, it depends, because we have different majors and stuff. Like, for
Yeah.
example, we have accounting majors, marketing majors, supply chain, depending, and we have, so at least in Concordia, we have different employers who kind of specialize in certain areas, right, certain domains, right. So I mean, if you're talking, it depends. So usually the students are they're geared in one area or specialization. Example, marketing, right? So we have a lot of marketing firms too, in terms of like, for example, market research firms, or just or any kind of marketing, you know company here, like say that use, or even a company that uses a lot of marketing, like for example Procter and Gamble, right? I mean, it's one of the biggest consumer kind of companies in the world, right? So there's, and they could do different functions. Of course, it depends on the need of that organization at that time. So there's different positions, but they kind of span throughout different fields: marketing,
Right.
finance,
Yeah.
supply chain. So it really depends. I mean, they get the opportunity to tap into kind of what they want because they just apply for it. So I think that's a great tool that that we offer, and it's really, that's experiential learning. Really, I think it's so important. I mean, because I could relate personally. I mean, because the lack of it is not, I mean, is it's a detriment. So I mean, but it's a useful tool. So and we kind of we push that as well, and on that same level, we it gives the opportunity for networking, right? Because we talk about, students want a professional network to connect. I mean, so that's by being in touch with various employers, we give them that opportunity. And also within that, we also do various events, right? I mean, we have business various, sorry, business clubs, and we have, guest speakers, like I mentioned, like yourself, come from industry, from industry really, who actually talk. And there's also alumni kind of meetups where they have the opportunity to network. So those are very important kind of networking opportunities that we offer them. And personally, I use LinkedIn. I mean, it's a great tool. I mean, I think that's how you and I met. uh,
Correct.
so we kind of push that as well. At least I do. I mean, again, every kind of pocket is different, but I mean, it's a great way now to kind of easily connect with people that you want to meet, right? Especially if you're a student, right? I mean, if you want to work for, say, I don't know, if you want to work for Bombardier, which is one of my companies I wanted to work for as an engineer growing up, right? I never had a chance to, but I mean, LinkedIn is an easy way, right? You just follow the company and you could start, adding contacts. They're actually following and just understanding maybe the little bit of the culture, which before wasn't really possible, right? Unless you know somebody who works in the company. But even that, I mean, so the networking part and LinkedIn, we kind of use that, or in terms of it's an easier way now to kind of connect with a real company, right? And not, just it gives the opportunity for students to kind of go in there and say, you know what, okay, maybe I'm going to reach out to some people in this company, right? And then just don't ask for a job, but I mean, we're saying
Yeah.
just to understand,
Just
okay,
network. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, networking, which is very, very important. So that's
I'd
kind of
like to tell my students and professionals that if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, it's as if you don't exist at
oh,
this
there,
day and age.
correct. See, I agree with that, 100%, 100%.
In
So
your opinion, what are the most valuable skills and attributes that students should develop in order to succeed in today's competitive business environment?
yeah, that I would say different soft. I call them soft skills. I mean, or transferable skills. Very, very important. Like what? Like being an analytical thinker, right? Solving problems, analyzing data. Like for example, say analytical thinking is kind of one domain. Was by that I'm talking about, analyze some data and understand some trends in various industries, right? It makes, and more importantly, to use data to help use to use data to make what we say data driven decisions, right? Very, very important, right? That sometimes involves some financial kind of analysis. I know some students are not comfortable, but they'll get comfortable with that through, because it is a business kind of program, right? So some even if you're not in finance, right, you need to kind of have a some kind of comfort level with handling some numbers, the ability to adapt and change, right, and being resilient. I think that's a life skill, but it's also a business skill, and it's important for students to understand how to adapt to various changes, because we live in a changing environment, right, with technology changing so many and the rapid changing technological or technological advancements that are occurring right now, right? It forces students to kind of or learn, not just students. I mean, I'm a learner myself, right? So I mean, I'm learning every day just to adapt to change and overcome challenges. And end of the day, to try to to get up, to rebound, come back from a setback, and that's personal too, because we all go through that. So the sense of the adaptability, very very important. So it's kind of, that's a skill that's, I think, and that's what employers are looking for too. And in our era now, you have to have some kind of digital, I don't know, call it comfort, right? And here, especially with AI now, that's really has is a game changer, right? I mean, and digital financial kind of like the blockchain, right? For example, that's really growing, and just being and deregulated finance. Those kind of concepts are kind of they're digital. So
Are you concerned? Are you concerned about the use of AI by your students for their
now,
assignments and projects?
yeah, it's $1 million question. I mean, even institutions now, we're kind of discussing these topics, right? So I think right now we're at the professors or the lecturers kind of discretion. I actually personally, I've shown students how to use AI, let's say uh, chat GTP, and how I just try to focus on some strengths and weaknesses, because it's not perfect. It's still amazing tool, but end of the day, right, it's how you use it. And it's all about prompts and asking it the right information, actually getting the right information as well. Because actually we've used this, because I'm also a judge for various competitions here
Oh,
at,
what type of competitions?
so like business case study analysis
Okay.
competitions, right? And as of this year, actually last year, we put a as a criteria that we allowed. It's the first time we allowed the teams to use AI, ChatGPT or AI, right? But then they had to kind of reference how they used it, right? How, but you can't just copy and paste. And where is the data coming from, kind of thing. So it was almost like it was a trial thing that we did, so where we allowed them to use it. They had to tell us how exactly they're using it, right? So
Oh,
I mean, and that was interesting. But I mean, it's very powerful. But I mean, the whole point of it is how do you how do you use it in a constructive, positive way, as a on both sides, right? As a learner, student, and also as a prof too. So I've shown how it sometimes, guess what, even makes up some references in terms of research, in terms of scholarly articles. We've done that. I mean,
so there's a benefit to students without actually plagiarizing their work.
correct. No, it just helps. Actually, I tell them, what, you could use it. Actually, use it to learn, to supplement your learning. It's like it's amazing, right? Now the question is, now it could,
That's good advice. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
supplement the learning. Yeah.
yeah, supplement and maybe even start. It's a good starting point. But the question is, don't, it's a good way to learn whatever, any concept. Put it on there, you get it. If you're not following in a lecture or you don't understand a concept, just start, just kind of, instead of using Google, use this tool. But then you got to be careful in terms of how you use it, in terms of submitting assignments, stuff like that. Right now there's technology to that kind of assesses that. It gets a little complicated, but again, I think as a starting point for the learner, I think it's an amazing tool. And he's even as a prof too. I mean, I start using it as well too, in terms of giving me some
Helps
it's a
you with
good
your lesson
starting point.
plans.
Yeah,
How do you use it? In what capacity?
yeah, in terms of, say, a concept, right? I mean, if I'm doing a certain concept and I want a different, oh, I want a different spin on it, right? I mean, then I could create a little case study on that. It's pretty good for that, right? In terms of, but you got to prompt it properly. Like if we're doing a real business, I don't know, if we're analyzing, say, digital technology in a firm, right? How they could use it to improve their productivity, right? I mean, there's so much you could do. I mean, you could set up a scenario for you, right? And you could set some questions and even open ended and closed and that kind of stuff, right? So I mean, it's easier now for it facilitates. It could facilitate learning and teaching. But the question is, we're learning how to use this properly, and I'm just started now, so I'm kind of, I'm on the beginning of the curve. But I mean, yeah, but for assignments and stuff like that, we have to be careful, right? So I mean, it's a work in progress, what I call. But yeah, that's a game changer, and we're figuring out how to use it better.
Good. So,
Uh,
looking ahead, Chris, what do you envision for the future of business education? And how do you think it will evolve to meet the needs of students and employers?
yes, I mean, the transformation, I think, is just prevalent. It's significant, and there's going to be changes every day, and it's important to align or more closely between the needs. Again, it becomes trying to match the needs of the students and the employers, right? So now we're looking at some trends, right? So here we talked about, well, we've already talked about Chat GTP, right? AI. I mean, having an increased focus on technical integration through classroom. I mean, that's where we're at now. The question is, how do you do it? How do you, we're exploring now, right? How do you use this technology maybe in your classroom, right? But I mean, some profs are still kind of weary about that, right? I mean, some are on board, some are not. Depends where you're at. For me, it's like, I think I'm a believer in technology. It's very, very important, especially when the audience are, most of them are Generation Zers, right? I mean, and they're actually born with the iPhones, right, with technology. So I mean, and the problem is maybe is they know how to use technology maybe better than say me, right? Because some are very, you know what I mean. So being vulnerable, I think, and open, I think that's what I've learned. And but it works, because if you bring technology the right way in the classroom, it helps the learner, and it increases the engagement. I mean, so that's what I try to do. And now we're trying to figure out, at least trying, from an educational institution perspective, is how do you embed chat GTP in the learning. So that's where we're at with
Right.
that. So technology, integration is key, especially not just that's AI, but there's also machine learning, and also data analysis, analytics as well, right? So the big data is huge. So the question is, so these are other, again, technologies that can be used, of course, depending on the course. But I mean, for the curriculum, yeah, and we do have data analytic courses as well. So technology integration is key. I think blending learning models, I think, are growing. By that, I'm talking about thanks to COVID, right? When we kind of shifted from in person to
There you
online.
go. There's a benefit right there from COVID, right?
I think, but I mean, yeah. So having some kind of blended or hybrid, model, maybe, right? I think it just gives the student greater flexibility and accessibility, right? So I mean, but again, that depends on at the educational institutional perspective, right? But I mean, I think blended, personally, I think is very good to go. I mean, but now it seems that in person is kind of favored now because of, I don't know, maybe all this trauma during COVID or something. But personally,
Right.
I see blended learning models something as being popular, I think, going forward. And again, I already mentioned soft skills, right? Emphasis on soft skills by students. I mean, that's what employers want, right? Before the technical skills, end of the day, the graduate's going to have a technical, it's going to have a diploma, right? A degree. I mean,
Right.
but then their opportunity to kind of differentiate themselves comes in with, what soft skills do they have, or transferable skills do they have that they could offer their employers, right? And that's what employers look for, right? Critical thinking, creativity, right? Computer communication skills, huge, right? Oral and written, huge. AI too. I mean, emotional intelligence too. Not just based on intelligence, but based on emotional kind of awareness. That's key. And teamwork. And this,
Right.
these are skills that employers are looking for too, right? The ability to work in teamwork. That's where you do group projects, right? Leadership, and that ties into customer engagement in the world, at the workplace, right? So I mean, so all these soft skills come in. So it gives the opportunity for the student to kind of to hone their skills by practicing them. Really, that's what that is. And also,
Which business major do you recommend students take?
yeah, that's a personal kind of, it's a good question, but it depends on the student. Because I mean, again, they have to know, because it becomes pretty specific. You're talking about, if you're going to into, say, you choose finance, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of math in there, right? And so as a learner, right, as a student, it's like, do you like doing that? Or you got to analyze each one. Marketing, right? Do you like doing marketing analysis, right? The 4 P's that we talk about, right, in terms of marketing strategies, marketing plans. So that's kind of, so you have to understand, okay, do I like that? And we also have HR, right? I mean, human resources, like dealing with the policies, and more than just recruiting and firing, right? I mean,
Right.
HR is huge. It's growing too. So do you like that menu? Or do you like supply chain? What are you talking about? The whole thing about the dealing with the raw materials all the way to delivering the end product to the customer, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Is we have actually a program on supply chain that's more than just transportation, right? It just takes everything, it takes you through the whole process. So those are like four that so really the student at that point, because the first year is pretty much common courses, right? So at that point the student will have to kind of decide, okay, which, where am I more passionate about? I don't know if it's passion. Ideally we talk about passion, but sometimes you don't have it, right? Or maybe what milieu, what domain am I interested in? I think that's what I try to communicate, right? Do I like this? Do I like financing more? Do I like marketing? Do I like HR, right? So I think that's how I would go about that.
And I guess you're happy with your past decision, right?
My past decision.
In regards to the programs
Yes.
and concentration that you took. Yeah.
Yes, personally, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, yeah, because I was, my background really comes from the engineering background. Really, I went from working in industry for about 8 years, more in the sales, marketing, customer service, business development milieu. So I guess that's what I bring into the classroom, right? I mean, that was my first, you could say, first phase of my career, and then
Right.
I used those, I guess, skills, knowledge, right, to transfer into education, right? And then I was, from teaching, I started teaching, mathematics at all levels there, high school math, really. But again, and then I just progressed. I did my MBA, and then I just progressed from mathematics to really to teaching in the business programs, which I love. I just love, and I love that real life part. Trying to do just bring a sense of real life cases to the classroom. I mean, I think it's probably the first, I don't know, one objection the students have, right? Trying to say, or, they'll ask, how can I, how real is this, right? How can I apply this? Well, by doing, in any course, really, by handling a real life case study, right? I mean, it allows you to actually wear the hat of a different leader. It could be a CEO, a manager, a marketing manager, right? And say, guess what? I'm the manager for this company right now. These are the facts. What will I do? What would I do to create the problem? I mean, to create the solution for the problem. And that's kind of what I try to bring to the classroom. And yeah, and doing my MBA at John Molson, allowed me to do that. So I'm grateful for having the opportunity to kind of be involved in higher ed, and to given the it's really I think it's a gift, and
Yeah.
it's a privilege, really. I mean, to be able to kind of share and motivate and inspire our future leaders. So
There you go. Chris, thank you for sharing your valuable insights and perspectives on business education. It's clear that practical learning and real world experiences do play a crucial role in preparing students for the challenges and opportunities that they're going to encounter in their careers. So, my audience and I appreciate your time and expertise.
thank you very much. It was my pleasure, James, and it was great. Thank you for inviting me here. It was great. It was fantastic just discussing these important topics with you.
You bet. Keep moving forward.
Likewise. Take care.
And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful conversations on Savvypreneurship. Until next time, stay tuned and stay savvy.